Welcome to Church Spotlight. I'm Rena Danley, and today our spotlight falls on First Baptist Church Gautier, and joining me now is their pastor, David Altman. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Let's start with the journey of First Baptist of Gautier.
Okay. First Baptist Church started in the mid-40s. You hear the story of an old brush arbor beginning here in the community. The church has progressed now for over 65 years. And it's gone through its stages of development. It's gone through its stages of construction. It's gone through its stages of different pastors. The church has sought to be, for these 67, 68 years now, has sought to be a vital part of the community. And the church has also had its history not only of construction and pastors, but it's also had its history of recoveries from hurricanes.
Yes.
And one of the things you learn about the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, is everybody has a Katrina story, and I'm sure being 67 years old, it probably has a Camille story as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. They have several. A lot of the people that have been here for years and years remember historical events of our church by the names of hurricanes. You know, a particular hurricane came through one time and blew off the end of the sanctuary. And so the foyer area that we're in right now actually was the result of recovery after a hurricane.
Oh, really?
I don't remember which one. They'll tell you though.
Yeah. Well, okay, you know, for as long as I can remember, the church has been right here off of the highway, so it's definitely a landmark in Gautier.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure the people being here for so long, yeah, they can remember and attest, because it's always been at this location, correct?
That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Well, tell me how the paths met. How did y'all cross paths in bringing you into the church?
Well, you know, it's interesting you asked that. 25 years ago, I told my wife one day that I would never pastor a church on the Gulf Coast. And part of the reason...
wait a minute. Yeah, there you go. I want to know why.
I'm going to answer that one. Part of the reason for that was because I grew up in the Hattiesburg area.
Okay.
When Camille came through, I was a 10-year-old boy. And I very vividly remember Camille. And I remember what it did to the Gulf Coast. And of course, I remember what it did up in Hattiesburg. And so storms, and I mean hurricanes, major hurricanes, have always been something that I've always watched very closely, and I didn't want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, and also I have a real concern about our Gulf Coast in regards to the casino industry.
Sure.
And I'm not a proponent of it. I'm against it, and family and culture that could get caught up into that. So for those reasons, I didn't want to be a part of the Gulf Coast, fighting the storms and even fighting some of the cultural things. Mm-hmm. But lo and behold, about almost 8 years ago now, I got a phone call from an individual from this church who was a part of a pastor search committee, and somehow they had gotten my name and wanted to talk to me about the possibility of coming down here. And to tell you the truth, I had talked with several other churches, even some churches here on the Gulf Coast, and no. And each time I would tell my wife, I would call her after the interview and I'd say, don't worry, baby, we're not going down there. But yet when I met with the search committee from this church, there was something different. Yeah. And literally as I was driving out of the parking lot after that first interview with the committee, I called my wife on the phone and said, you better start praying. Something's going on here.
Pray for or against, huh?
Pray for God's will.
Right.
Bottom line.
Right.
And so we came here January of 2004, the first Sunday in 2004, and have been here now for a little over 7 years. And we've seen our storms, both with hurricanes, and we've seen some things with our church that have been some developmental things, and maybe redirecting a little bit on a few things. But we've seen God do some great things here, and it's been really exciting.
What do you mean redirecting?
Well, one of the things, when I came here, actually before I came here as pastor, doing some of the research on the church itself, before I made kind of that decision of, do we really want to do this, I even was down here in the community before being the pastor here, talking to some community people. They didn't know who I was. It was just conversation. And I found out that the community's perception of First Baptist Church Gautier and the reality of First Baptist Gautier were not the same. The people of First Baptist Church Gautier are good people. It's maybe not your typical First Baptist church, and I'm surely not the typical First Baptist pastor, but they're good people. I kind of describe them as a starch blue-collar congregation. They work hard, they're very generous, they're very giving, they're very loving, but the perception that I discovered from the community was that the community believed we were like a high-class social club.
I see.
Well,
which is not a compliment.
No, not at all. The fact is, people are driven by perception, not by reality.
Sure.
So one of the things that I realized that we had to do as a church is we had to change their perception. So we've been doing a lot of things in our church for the last 7 years of trying to change that perception.
Yeah. And that's going to lead us into our next segment, because I have a feeling that we want to talk about that at length, because that's very interesting, and it's certainly a goal and a vision that I feel like you have for this church.
Absolutely.
So let's take a break right here. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Church Spotlight. Today we're at First Baptist Church in Gautier, and we are sitting down and chatting with their pastor, David Altman. Before the break, we were talking about the redirection and the perception that went on here at the church. I'd like for you to continue that conversation.
Well, as I shared with you before I came here, and I did talk with people in the community, and I was hearing things that were very, very troubling, and realizing that what people perceived about us and what's the truth were not the same, and so we had to change that. And we've been doing some things over the last 7 years to change perceptions. You know, I'll be honest with you, probably the biggest thing that we've done had to do with Hurricane Katrina. When Katrina hit, our church, every building in our facility, we had almost $1.5 million worth of damage. And this building that we're in, the sanctuary, we had to gut it. And after Katrina, I mean, just literally days after Katrina, there was a decision made that we would use our sanctuary as a distribution center for the city of Gautier. And for 10 days, there were no pews, there were no floor coverings, there was nothing in here. And we went through probably 18 tractor trailer loads of supplies.
Goodness.
We helped, I think we had the number around 1,500 families, just giving them the bare necessities. We had food, we had clothing, we had water, we had baby food, diapers, we had some cleaning supplies. And people would come in the door, and we would just get their name, and we would ask them just get enough for 3 or 4 days, and you know, and kind of be respectful of what we're trying to accomplish. No other questions, no other anything. And we had a chance to begin ministering to this community. Well, then what followed after that, though, was after the distribution aspect of it was over, and that took about 10 days, we began to put together some plans of how we could help our community recover from Katrina. And as a church, we kind of made a decision we were going to focus more on people and not on buildings, our building. Kind of the thing was we focused on, you know, let's take care of people and let God take care of us. Yeah. And so that's what we really did. In the process of that, over the next 15 months, we actually helped 233 families get back into their homes. And they were not exclusive First Baptist Church families. They were anybody.
Right.
Most of the families we helped were within our city limits. We did go outside of our city and help in other places, but we primarily focused on helping families in Gautier. And, well, I mean, we, for about a year and a half, not quite a year and a half, we actually had called a man who was a contractor by trade, but he was also an ordained minister. He came on board as our minister of disaster relief.
Wow.
And he organized all the jobs. He organized all the needs of the homes. He evaluated the homes with his contractor background. And we had volunteers from all over the nation that were coming in and they were helping. And we would house them here at the church. And we would give them their job assignments, and they were going out and they were helping all these homes and these families. It was estimated that through the recovery process, our church was involved an estimation of about $3 million worth of disaster relief recovery. And that really opened the eyes. I mean, to tell you that one day, one of our sister churches from over in Pensacola gave us about 150 Christmas trees. This is Christmas immediately following Katrina.
Right.
And they brought over and delivered to us about 150 artificial Christmas trees. And we put it on the radio that giving Christmas trees away. And we literally had a line of people that were coming in to get Christmas trees.
Yeah.
And all we did was we got their name. When they came up to get the tree, I shook their hand, talked to them just very briefly, say, God bless you, that kind of stuff. And we gave them a tree, and they left. We had one of our partners, within the Southern Baptist Convention, there was a great organization of partnership where churches that were not affected were coming in and helping. And one of our partner churches up in Georgia, one of their members became a licensed agent for General Electric. And what he did, he was able to purchase appliances, kitchen appliances, from General Electric, straight from the factory. And between their partnership and some folks here in our own church, we were able to give away like 150 kitchen appliances. And they were not just to church members, they were to anybody that needed them. We had certain limitations. You know, you couldn't shop. It's a white stove, it's a white refrigerator, a white washer, a white dryer, or a white freezer. And we helped people get appliances because all their appliances were destroyed with a hurricane. That was one thing that we did to try to connect with the community. We've done Upward Basketball, which is a Christian league basketball. Now, we've not done it the last 2 years. Part of the reason for that, we've had trouble getting enough kids. It takes about 150 kids to have a league.
Yeah.
And the last time we tried it, which was 2 years ago, we had 99 kids. And you just can't do a league when you don't have that number of kids. We've done, have you ever heard of Team Impact? The strong guys. These are the muscle-bound guys that bend the rods and break the blocks and all that stuff. We've brought them into our church twice in the last 3 years. And they go into all the Gautier schools and they do assemblies. And then we have them here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's been phenomenal. And these kids are coming from everywhere. And these guys that do all these things, they share the gospel. But they do it in a different venue, a different way.
Right.
And it works.
They're able to connect to the kids.
And they're connecting with the kids. And we've seen tremendous results. Some other things that we've done, even in the past year. We did something this past year this church has never done before. We did a community Thanksgiving lunch. And what we did, we took donations through our Sunday school program. And we took up enough money. And we bought enough food. And we had planned to be able to feed potentially up to 500 people. And we communicated it out to the community. Anyone's welcome. If you're not going to have Thanksgiving meal somewhere, we'd love for you to come. No strings attached. Just come and enjoy a meal. And we served about 350 people that day.
My goodness.
And there were literally no strings attached. You know, we heard people saying to us, oh yeah, I know what you're going to do. You're going to get us in the building with food, then you're going to preach to us. We didn't do that.
Right.
We just simply said, if you're not going to have it, we want to share with you.
Right.
And it was a tremendous success.
As you're telling me all this, you know, one man can't do this. The congregation has to be on board. And so that just is a testament of the body of believers that belong to First Baptist and that they want to connect and they want to reach out to the community.
Absolutely. You know, we do a fall festival every year. And each year it seems to get bigger and bigger. You know, I had my own lack of faith two years ago for the Halloween season fall festival because it happened to be that year that the night we were doing our fall festival, the city was doing a fall festival, the college was doing one, and there was another one or two in our community that were doing fall festivals. And I was concerned that, okay, there's going to be so much competition, we won't have as large a turnout. Well, that year we had about 500 people come through our facilities with our fall festival. This past year, again, we had over 500 people. In fact, I shouldn't admit this. I was concerned if the fire marshal may show up. I mean, it was, we use our Family Life Center, our gymnasium. We use a couple of other large rooms on the back of our facility, and we have all kinds of things. We have booths. We have food. We have all kinds of flavored popcorns and cakes and cupcakes and all these things for children. and everything is biblically based information that they get. It's even the stuff that we do with them, and it has just become a phenomenal success. And our numbers, I mean, it seems to get bigger every year. But what we're doing is we're trying to let these people come and realize who we really are,
right?
Not who their perception was, and it's beginning to pay off.
Yeah.
We're having some wonderful success in certain areas of ministries here in our church right now. Our youth program has doubled in the last 3 years. Right now we're having a revival not only in our youth area but also in our college area, believe it or not. Tonight we'll have a Bible study, and there will be potentially 15 college-age students that will meet in an apartment with a man that's a member of our church, and he works with them in a Bible study, and it'll last 2 hours. And by the way, I'm not talking about fluff. I mean an in-depth Bible study.
Right, getting into the meat of the Word of God.
Yes, and these kids are growing right now in some phenomenal ways, and so that's exciting.
Yeah, isn't it, we know that God is capable, but when we see the fruits of our labor and we see the harvest come in, it's still a phenomenal thing that you step back and say, God, I'm just amazed at all that you've done, and you're able to accomplish when we just simply say, your will be done.
Right, that's exactly right. We've been talking about this thing as perceptions and even directions. One of the things that we've done, 5 years ago, we got our new worship leader, and he is very talented. I'm very blessed here. I have a team, a worship leader and a youth minister that are both phenomenal, and their hard work makes me look a lot better than I really am. But we've gone to a blended worship service, and we do still do traditional hymns, but we also do some contemporary praise music.
Right.
And it's got to where now everybody is enjoying the worship. And we finally are getting to the place that it's not about a type of music, but it's about a worship. And as we do that, that opens other doors. We've started an instrumental ensemble, almost like a small orchestra here in our church with our worship services. They don't play every Sunday, but they rehearse every week, and they're playing more and more frequently. But hearing the live music as part of our services is also a very neat thing. And everybody, all generations, seem to be enjoying it and being blessed by it.
Right.
So these are some things that I really like seeing happen.
And it's funny that you mentioned it's not, when it goes from just singing into worship, then that's a whole different scenario. And to bring the worship, I think is probably, well, I would definitely say it is the success to it, because worship is not a service, it's a lifestyle.
Let me give you one example of that. There was a Sunday about 3 months ago, and I've shared this with several people because it really impacted me. As the pastor, I'm sitting up on the platform. Our worship leader, he's leading the worship. And early in the worship time, he's doing some more contemporary praise music. And we have a lot of people in our church that really love to worship now. And I mean, they'll even stand up and they'll raise their hands, and they're celebrating their encounters with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And so during some of the early part of the worship with these contemporary songs, I had some people that were just worshiping. And I noticed it, and it really touched me. It made me, but we have that a good bit, so I wasn't surprised. Well, then later in the worship, Brother Steve, our worship leader, he went to some more traditional hymns. But all of a sudden, even during some of the traditional hymns, I had some of my older generation standing up and worshiping.
Yeah.
And on that day, I knew that we, the people of God, were worshiping Him. And it was not a generational thing.
Right.
It was being the family of God. That to me was something that has just been a wonderful blessing to me.
That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm in awe at how God is, I can see your heart and your vision just taking place in this building, and I thank you for sharing that, and I know you've got exciting things that you're in the midst of right now that's even further into the future, and we want to talk about that. But right now, let's take a break, but there's more to come. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us. back to Church Spotlight. Today we are with David Altman, pastor of First Baptist Church, Gautier. And you were about to explain and give us your vision for this church.
Well, I shared with you earlier that changing the perception was so important. We're changing the perception. We're making an impact in our community now. One of the things now we're trying to do is prepare to have the facilities, to have the programming, to be able to properly minister to these people. So we're in a kind of a construction program right now. We have a basically newly renovated sanctuary, thanks to Katrina. Some other things, though, that we are doing now. We've bought a building across the street from our church. It was an old metal building. It was actually an old car repair place. And we're completely gutting it. We're new cover on the outside. We're adding to it. And that's going to become our youth complex. We're going to have an area of about 2,300 square feet. That's Sunday school rooms for our youth, and then about a 1,700 square foot assembly area where they'll do their gatherings and have their concerts and various and sundry other things. Also, when we move the youth out of our existing facilities, when that all happens, we're going to have some rooms upstairs that are going to be available. And I've got some classes I need to fill right now, but we've got some folks that would have trouble getting upstairs, so we're putting in an elevator as part of this building program, and that's in process right now. We've relocated our office complex. Our office complex used to be right in the middle of our daycare area. We had our bed babies on one side of us, we had our children on the other side of us, and we were between them. And so now we've created a new office complex in what used to be the old chapel building. And when all this other stuff is done, we're going to then take our old daycare building and we're going to gut it out and completely renovate it and make it a 21st century facility. And in so doing, we're going to increase our capacity from 45 children up to as many as 75 children, because there's such a desperate need in our community for a Christian daycare facility.
Right.
So we're doing these things so that we can then better minister to the people that are here and that are coming and that we are trying to impact.
It sounds like God is definitely expanding your territory.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm loving watching it, just to be honest with you. To be on the backside and just kind of back up and just watch what God's doing is really neat.
Well, it's always exciting to be in a building program, and especially to see things updated and where the facilities can really make an impact and facilitating the people that are going to be coming in.
Right. Well, I really believe that when this building program is over, and by the way, it's exciting for everybody but the ministers. They have to deal with all the confusion and all the circumstances. But it's getting there, and we're not far from it now. We're probably 6 months from completing the process. And then having the facilities that we need to better minister to our community is going to be critical. I'm just really excited about that.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up our interview today, tell me in a couple of sentences your passion.
My passion, a preacher's not supposed to say this, but I don't have the gift of evangelism. My passion is a pastor, shepherd, teacher. My passion then is seeing people that come to know Jesus Christ and seeing how that relationship transforms those individuals from the way they were in the world to the way Christ wants them to be. Seeing souls saved, yes, but lives changed, marriages restored, families restored, people that have come from the world that are now coming back to becoming Christ-like.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. It's been a pleasure to meet you and to see and hear your heart and get to know this congregation here, because I can tell that they want to be out into the community and they want to make a difference in Gautier, and I think that is a great testimony. I thank you.
Thank you.
And I thank you for watching. If you would like to see your church spotlighted, give us a call or email through our website, wkfk.com. Until then, I'm Rena Danley, and I thank you for watching.